This is an urgent message to all humans everywhere.
Thank you for tuning in. This is the Rice Crypto Show, and I'm your host, Rice. And on today's episode, I am joined once again by my friend Kyle Kemper, who is the founder of Swiss Key. Now, I'm going to have links down below and above for that first interview that I did with Kyle. I definitely encourage you to check it out so you can get more information on what Swiss Key is all about. But in today's video, I wanted to get some updates and also talk to Kyle about an interesting subject about human rights. Kyle recently put a speech out on his social media accounts that I found to be very inspiring. That speech will be at the very end of this video. I definitely encourage you to watch this entire video all the way to the very end. Check out Kyle's speech. Also, I'm going to be giving away a couple Swiss keys. Kyle sent me some Swiss keys, so we're going to be giving these bad boys away. Talking about it in the episode. There's going to be two ways that you can win one of these Swiss keys. One would be to comment on this video. One person will be selected who comments on this video to win a Swiss key. The other winner will be selected on Twitter. So if you're not following me on Twitter already, follow me at ricecrypto. But before we get into it, this is your first time ever checking out any of my content, I do encourage you to explore my channel. Make sure you subscribed, smash that like button, hit the notification bell so you can stay up to date with my videos as they come out, and be sure to follow me on LBRY where I post exclusive content, and I'm going to have links down below for my LBRY channel. So we're just going to go ahead and get right into today's video. All right, ladies and gentlemen, like I said, today I am joined by my good friend Kyle Kemper, the founder of Swiss Key. Kyle, thanks for coming on the show again today, man. How you doing?
I'm doing great, Chris. Thanks for having me on. Always a pleasure to connect and discuss. And
I'm definitely looking forward to it, man. I wanted to get some updates about what's going on with Swiss Key, and I wanted to talk about the speech that you made recently that you posted on your social media accounts and kind of highlight some of that. But before we get into it, man, how is quarantine life treating you and your family?
Well, I mean, honestly, it's been, it's kind of an emotional roller coaster in terms of like dealing with all this news and all this information from all different sides. But, if I think about the last year before this, there's been an incredible amount of movement in my life from different conferences and traveling around and, being engaged in the industry. And it has been really amazing just to be, in one place, to be able to focus internally, to be able to work on like, the mind, the body, and the soul in these times. And, we've actually been very kind of connected with other people as well. Like, so, my friend Gary LaChance has the Decentralized Dance Party, and we've been having interactive dance parties every Friday and Saturday night, which are just a blast because it connects people from all over the world. And, we get moving, we get active, and then we generally kind of chat and, we have a chance to connect. I think one of the things is like, there's just kind of a lack of human connection right now. Fortunately, we've got some really cool neighbors, so we've been spending some time with them, and setting out of the garage studio. We've got the backdrop, and then no virtual here.
Sweet. I love it, man. And yeah, it really is a good time to get connected with yourself and work on your mind, your body, and your soul. And I've definitely been neglecting my soul recently, so I'm going to be putting a lot more effort into exercising that part of my body and who I am. And so I appreciate you kind of bringing that to light. And you mentioned Decentralized Dance Party, which is really cool. I'm going to be interviewing Gary soon. And we're doing this interview on Friday, the 24th of April, and I'm going to release it on the 25th, which is Saturday. And it'll actually be before the Decentralized Dance Party happens. So I'll actually include links down below. So if you want to attend this Decentralized Dance Party, and it's exactly what it sounds like, it's a decentralized dance party. and you could do that and join other people all around the world. So I think it's really cool what Gary's doing, and we're going to highlight that. But me and him will highlight that. But I want to talk real quick before we get into the really heavy stuff, man. Let's talk a little bit about, I did interview you in the past, and I will include links down below and above for that as well. So I encourage people to check out the first interview I did with Kyle. But can you give us a little bit of updates on the progress of what's going on with Swiss Key?
Yeah, so I mean, we've just been building out, and like since last June is when I kind of like, the genesis of this project began. And there's been a lot of like, validating the concepts that we're working on, like, the concept of a universal digital wallet. I've got there's some annoying noise here. Let me close my garage.
No, it's all right. I mean, stuff happens, and I'll let people know too. Like, I'm going to be doing, letting everybody know I'm going to be doing a giveaway with a couple of the Swiss Key cards, and I will have details about how people can win a Swiss Key card on my Twitter account. So make sure you're following me and Kyle on Twitter, and it's going to have something to do with watching this video and commenting. So make sure you comment on this video, and there'll be 2 random people that will be selected to win their very own Swiss Key card. So.
Yeah, so these cards are like, you've got yours there. These cards are really, really cool. These like, I akin them to like, cash, but crypto.
Yeah.
So whoever has the card has the key. This is the wallet. There's no way to back it up. So it's not, if you keep it in a safe, it's, it's potentially a good store, but
if somebody takes it, there's no possession of a private key. It's really cool because you would use your phone.
Yeah.
Make sure. Let me get my notification screen off, and it comes up with the Tangem app for me specifically. And then, I know in the future we'll have it come up with Swiss Key, and then you'll scan it again and it pulls up all your information. This is an Ethereum card. This is one of the cards that'll be given away. So even though you might see this information right here, it doesn't give away anybody's private key or anything like that. And I do love this Tangem technology, and I love the fact that Swiss Key is incorporating this, and the fact that you're collaborating, because I think collaboration is key.
Dude, it's all about collaboration. When I saw these cards, I was like, these are absolutely incredible. And, having noodled around and played with them for a long time, there is so much potential for them. I've got a little point of sale unit here too. It's got a printer in it, and you can if you're a merchant with this, you just set how much you want, and then you can tap the card on it, and it'll take the money. It'll charge the card for the balance, or it can just accept crypto natively too. So, with the universal digital wallet paired with the familiar form factor of having a card that represents digital currency, and then paired with the terminal, we've really got the full loop in terms of services from merchants to consumers and to making it easy to store. So we're really stoked on this, and in the since last June, it's just been a lot of building, and there's a lot of stuff that goes into building a project, and there's so many different pieces that all need to come together. And I'm very could it have gone a little bit faster? I can always go a little bit faster, but I'm really confident to where we are today. And with this COVID situation, this technology is needed more than ever, because this is an opportunity for us to reclaim control of our money, of our identity, and of our data, which are all effectively keys. And if we have a secure, sovereign, self-custody place that we can be in control of it, that means we are able to return control and power to ourselves and take our power back from these other institutions, these private corporations, these governments that are holding our power, and which is putting us into a box. I say no to being in the box. I say no to the fear that keeps me in the box and that keeps people in the box. And I say, no, we do not need that. We can be in control of our own data and identity and currency. And this will enable us to, as I say, in my book, unlock a digital golden age, where we can look at these broken systems that have gotten us to where we are today and start truly rethinking what's possible. And it begins with the ability for the individual to cast their vote, to be able to vote with their money, to be able to vote with their identity, to be able to vote with their secure token potentially. Yes, and there's a lot, this whole identity kind of, there's a lot of people that are really scared about digital identity right now, and they feel that it's being like forced upon us. I am too scared about that. Digital identity, being delivered in a centralized, controlled form is a precondition to full-on Brave New World dystopia or utopia, depending on how you view that.
Right.
But that's what I'm like consciously trying to fight this and help shed light and spread light around the potential for us to rise as a species, as a civilization.
Dude, I love it. I love it. And I mean, that was one of the reasons why I wanted to bring you on and talk with you, because I will include at the very end of this video the speech that you posted on your social media, because it was very inspiring, man. Me and you were like right there on the same page with a lot of our thinking. And I really have been trying to communicate to people that we as individuals have so much power that we just don't realize because we've been conditioned to think otherwise. And I'm trying to like help re-empower people, get people to be reconnected with themselves. And then also the idea that we as a collective are a lot stronger when we're unified. It makes sense to use those kind of words. When we're not divided, when we can stand against something, when enough people stand against this kind of tyranny we're going to be talking about, that tyranny cannot stand. So your message has inspired me, and I wanted to inspire other people because, I mean, you're talking about some heavy things, talking about having our human rights stripped away in the name of protection. And I want to make sure I get the quote exactly right, because it reminds me of a quote from Benjamin Franklin. And it's a really interesting quote. Maybe I didn't save it, but it was something to do with, did I save it here? Yes, I saved it here. So this is a quote from Benjamin Franklin, and I was talking about this about a month ago. And so what you said really resonated with me. They who can give up essential liberty to obtain a little temporary safety deserve neither liberty nor safety. And it really reminds me of those revolutionary days that we're at right now, because we have a potential as a group of people to be able to stand up against our governments, our powers that be, and tell them what we want, that we want to be able to take control of ourselves. Because if we don't take this stand, and I really feel like this could be our final stand, essentially, because if we were to give up these human rights that we have on a temporary basis for this false sense of security, like you mentioned in your speech, I'm afraid that they'll never give that up. That will never, that word temporary will just start to be redefined as permanent. And so I'd really like to talk more about the fact that, because you're very well connected, man. I know that you don't necessarily agree with your brother, and I don't like to necessarily bring up your brother because of who your brother is, but it makes sense with what we're talking about. Your brother is the Prime Minister of Canada, Justin Trudeau. So, I mean, essentially, we're talking against things that these governments, including the governments that your brother's involved with, that are trying to enact on us as individuals. And the fact that people are willing to sacrifice their basic human rights in response to this COVID-19 stuff, dude, it's not cool. And I hope I didn't say anything that was, I'm not trying to say anything offensive. I got love for your brother. I got love for everybody.
As do I. I love my brother. I love my brother incredibly. And I think he's doing the best job that he can, given the cards he's being played.
Right.
The deck is rigged. And that's the challenge.
You mentioned digital ID, digital dollars.
Digital dollars, that there was an article about, the notion of the digital dollars, so that they, and they very clearly say that so they can track spending.
Completely trackable, traceable.
the big challenge. Even with Bitcoin, it's a public ledger. Every transaction is fully traceable. And while we might think it's very difficult to trace a transaction, it's not. It won't be that difficult. Not when you have all these layers on top of it.
Yeah.
And it comes down to pulling back onto the notion of when they impose these new rules or strip away some of our rights in the name of our protection, like it's very difficult to ever get them back. And income tax, for example, was a World War II measure to help alleviate the financial burden of that of that crusade, or whatever you want to call that shit. And unfortunately, and as a result, and we still have income tax today, and it is, in my opinion, it's tantamount to slavery. And
it is.
If we continue to work on it, this is where I talk about, in terms of rising into a new age, we need to think from a systems perspective about the role, the purpose of government, and moving away from moving across the spectrum of organizational structure and societal structure, from that of dictatorship on the far end to full peer-to-peer governance systems, which is kind of what I think a lot of us would like to get to. The notion of a representative democracy made a lot of sense when you're a country like the United States or Canada, when in the pre-internet era, when we weren't all connected, and
right.
we needed to have representatives to go show up to a building to bat on our behalf, and bat on behalf of generally the majority of the population and their interests, serving those districts. That has been completely lost. And democracy is not democracy anymore. It's red versus blue. It's right versus left. It's been so divided. And in our current schema, man, everyone is so divided. Looking at social media, just the hardcore polarization of people, even internally within my family, there's big time polarization. And it can be a little bit disheartening and sad to see, and to think how are we going to how do we unify, or how do we come together to stand up for humanity, to stand up for good, to stand up for light, when there are active forces of darkness, in my opinion, that are exploiting this, or potentially behind this, towards getting us into this position where we are right now, where we see almost all the small business class just being destroyed. Just destroyed.
Yeah.
I was on a call earlier today with the Gitcoin team, and they're talking about how just in Boulder, Colorado, where they're at, there are from the restaurants to the personal trainers to the hobby shops to the comic book shops. These are people who have dedicated their lives towards building businesses, and they've been told they can't do that anymore, or they have to stop for some given period. And this is no end in sight right now. The masks are coming in waves. Everybody's going to be wearing masks, which also triggers a sense of disconnectedness amongst everyone. But when you can't see somebody smile at you, that is messed up. Yeah. And then also, I'm a big hugger. I like to actually connect with people and touch people. And when you can't do that with people, all of a sudden there's a breakdown. We're scared of each other. That is the fear talking. And fear is a powerful, powerful influencer. And
it's one of the biggest influencers there is, man. And it's really sad what's happening. I think that the best thing that we can do is do our best to be alarm clocks and just wake people up, man. That's the best that we can do. Plant seeds, water other people's seeds that people have planted, and just continue trying to bring this light into the world in this situation. I mean, I was talking about this over the past couple of days with several different people. Even Ken Bozak last week. We don't have any people today in the world that I'm aware of that had the impact of people like John F. Kennedy Jr. or Martin Luther King Jr. These kind of like what Rage Against the Machine would call these renegades of funk, these guys that really were just inspiring people, that were trying to bring about real true change. And like, this conversation really encompasses a lot of like who I am as a content creator and journalist, and the things that I'm about, and my practice change message. I mean, it brings that whole be the change that you want to see in this world that much more importance of that message. I mean, it was an important message before, but right now we really need to wake up, and we really truly need to all individually be that change that we want to see in this world, so that we can have a better place for our future, for our futures, for our children's futures, for our grandchildren, for generations to come. Even if it's not your own children, just for the future of humanity. It's time for us to really take a stand, man.
I fully agree. And while I don't think we have, some singular characters that represent like, the Martin Luther King or the JFKs, there are so many light workers who are acting, who are working so hard on so many different fronts. And a lot of them are like, are facing just furious wrath, like Brian Rose and London Real TV.
Yeah,
like,
shout out to Brian Rose, man.
Shout out to Brian Rose, man.
He's doing some great things. He's fighting the system. He's fighting censorship, and I cannot support that man enough.
And if we think of Brian Rose too, he's not just someone just someone who's been in the shadows. He's been on, like, has been a very open-minded, open-hearted journalist doing long-form interviews, giving people the ability to express their positions and their concern and their, and their points of view, and just being a channel for that. And then all of a sudden he interviews David Icke, and it just goes bananas in terms of the popularity. And now David Icke, another person who has been studying the machine for a very long time, and has a lot of very relevant things to say. And then Brian Rose, as a result, gets completely banned off of social media, completely censored, and just witnesses like the wrath of free speech. Yeah. And now understanding that is like, wow, okay, something is going on here. Something major is going on here. Then he goes and spins up a new platform, and he raised $250,000 in the last 2 days to go outside of the system, to be able to move around the Facebook censorship and the YouTube censorship. And
since you brought that up, it's really cool that you brought that up, because what he's doing is trying to find a platform outside of all the normal platforms to have control and allow people to be able to see this content unedited, uncensored. And he explains, I definitely encourage people to check out his channel, because he's done some videos recently explaining exactly this, about how they were trying to do live streaming and allow to have like up to 1 million to 2 million people to be able to watch at one time without crashing. Because a lot of people don't realize how much goes into storing data, and how much would go into having a live stream like that, not utilizing a platform that's already geared towards that, like a Vimeo or a Patreon or a LBRY or any of these other different video hosting platforms. So he was looking at raising money to be able to allow for this to be for free, because he was not charging for the event, from what I understand. And it was the support of the people that support London Real. And what's crazy about that too is not only had he got what he was trying to get in the first initial phase of what they were doing, but they were able to actually get double that amount and start doing another live stream prior to the new one he's going to do with David Icke. So I think maybe it's even this Sunday. He's doing something with Dr. Rashid. And then I think it might be the following week that he's going to do that next conversation with David Icke. And this conversation that he had that had a lot of controversy, it wasn't his first interview with him. It was just, they were talking about 4-H, because you can't even mention that combination of numbers or letters on this particular platform that we're going to post it on without getting something happening to you. And then, that's why, it's cool that we're bringing this up too. I'm going to be trying.
No. And I'll speak to that. I have witnessed firsthand, I was in CTIA back in 2010 when I was approached by like, a woman, and CTI is a big mobile congress. And there was a woman outside talking about how her son had died of a brain tumor and that like 5 other people in their dorm also had like incredible health challenges.
From 4-H technology?
From a Pentagon, like, or from a military Tetra tower that was right next to them, like you broadcasting like the crazy signals. And just the EMF was, and she was like absolutely convinced on it, but the entire industry just like, nope, there's been no look into it. And this is technology that absolutely requires investigation as it's being rolled out globally. It must be questioned. It must be investigated. We have health reporting on all of our food, on all of our drugs, but yet somehow our telecommunications equipment, when our bodies are literally just energy, we are water and energy, and like we're dealing with energetic waves, like, and you can't just dismiss it saying, oh, non-ionizing radiation, like it's fine. Like,
well, I mean, wasn't this 4-H technology, or isn't it used by military to disperse crowds?
Yeah, there's that ADS system
because it disrupts your frequency. It's supposed to make you feel like your skin is on straight fire, so that you want to get out of this zone.
I don't think I wouldn't want to like say that like the tower that's being put in the will be able to do that. But yes, there is weaponized EMF, like there are EMF weapons that are used for crowd dispersal that make you feel like your blood is boiling, that your skin's on fire. That like there's lots of it. It's called the ADS system, and it's like a control system. It's a big satellite dish on the top of like a Humvee. They point it at a crowd, and it messes.
But that does utilize that 4-H technology, right? I'm just that. This is the.
I don't know. So, I'm not an engineer on those designs.
Okay.
I believe like yes.
So yeah, I mean, I just having open dialogue conversations where people can listen to this and maybe want to question things for themselves. I encourage people, just like you, Kyle, use critical thinking. Think for yourself, educate yourself, do your own research, look at multiple sources. Sometimes look at who those sources are. Sometimes if you're looking at articles, look at who writes the articles. Really do your research and don't believe what you're being told, and just stay open-minded, because what we're talking about, I'm not necessarily prescribing to these conspiracy theories, but I'm trying to stay open-minded. I'm trying to stay respectful to other people's opinions so I can formulate my own.
Yeah. Amen. And I think like, the word conspiracy theory, it's been used so.
Well, if you're a critical thinker in today's day and age, you are labeled as such.
Yeah. Well, and it's just a way to like, to belittle and ostracize and like shut down a debate that can't be won. If you can't win the debate, don't have it. Like, so if you can use the word conspiracy theory and just like, and negate any discussion, and then based on conspiracy theory, like instead of actually talking about maybe some of the highlighted of like some of the key questions that are being asked, because it's more questions than like, there's no shame in asking questions.
No.
It's one thing to assume you know exactly what's going on and to try and tell people what the truth is. That's another thing. That's different from asking questions. But asking questions is just fine, in my opinion, and we should be able to encourage that and dispute that and have discussions around that and like, get to the bottom and be able to verify these things. And these are like, we have had a history of like, conspiracies that were multiple people gathering together to commit crimes, and that went on at a very large scale, and then a narrative myth was pushed that was say the Vietnam War or 9/11 or now potentially COVID is something that like needs greater understanding, because when people use fear to kind of to direct behavior, it means, well, I don't know, it's just,
well, dude, what sucks about that is, okay, I'm trying to be intelligent about this as far as everything that's happening with a virus, and trying to gather enough information to where I can make an educated decision and choice about what's going on. But the problem with that is there's so much misinformation and disinformation that's out there that's mixed with truth that it's hard to distinguish what is actual reality. I don't know the severity of the situation of what this virus can do and what its potential is. I've talked to people who I know who have had it. And then I talk to people who just think this is a joke. So I don't know how serious I should take this. I don't know if it sucks, dude, like having to wear a mask and not let you hug me. But I don't know if that's the best thing for me and you because of not knowing the severity of this virus, and then not knowing the severity of this virus, and then having people like the World Health Organization and your Gates, those kind of people who are talking about vaccinations to be able to function again in society, and really trying to push that narrative. It's really scary, dude. And then when you combine all that in with some of the things that you were mentioning about like your digital data, people need to research big data and see like what that entails, because we have digital profiles that are used and weaponized against us. We have the potential idea of digital dollars coming in, which is completely trackable. And also, I mean, if everything's digital, they could shut you out of your own money. It's not going to be a decentralized system. It's going to be centralized. We've got ID 2020. There's some weird ties with the ID 2020 to Bill Gates. I'm not trying to feed into that whole conspiracy theory, but there's a lot of things that don't gel well with me, with him and a lot of his associations and the direction.
I was at an ID 2020 summit. I mean, I really like ID 2020 and like some of the top level purpose of it. But if this is being we have to be careful as well, because one of the things about ID is if we are forced to have as the narrative right now, the mainstream narrative is suggesting that things won't go back to normal. Like Bill Gates' narrative is that if things won't go back to normal until we all get vaccinated and we all have a digital proof of vaccination. That's Gattaca. That is valid, invalid. That is, in order to travel, we're going to need to have a proof of this vaccination. And let's understand that is his narrative. That is his narrative, and that is a narrative that is being echoed very strongly from groups like the World Health Organization, and then subsequently, as you get down the pyramid, it's coming out from the media channels. It's coming out then based on the media channels, it's coming out from the officials. It's coming out from the doctors. It's coming out from the frontline healthcare workers. But at the same side, underneath this whole schema, there is a large voice of people out there, a huge number of people that are saying no.
Yeah, they're starting to wake up. People
no.
are waking up now. I mean, the term, the Great Awakening, is a really good term for what's happening. It's just, are we going to use this Great Awakening for a positive thing for the future of humanity, or are we going to use this for a negative thing for the future of humanity? Which direction are we going to go?
Are we going to use our energy to build, or are we going to use it to destroy? And I much prefer to use my energy to build and to build solutions and try and help us realize our collective potential and every individual's potential, and break the spell, because there is a spell going on right now, and it is a dangerous spell. It is a dark spell, and if we can break out of it, and start thinking for ourselves and not operate from a position of fear, then we can look forward. And there are amazing resources. There's a site called Questioning COVID, questioningcovid.com, very well referenced by health practitioners, alternative medicinal naturopaths, and a whole slew of people, just documenting some of the questions just around the testing. And the fact that the PCR tests just test for genetic breakdown of material. They're not testing for, there's no specific COVID that they're testing for. They're just testing, does your body have a bunch of stuff?
Yeah.
There's broken down material in it. And if you test positive, well, then you got COVID. And then if I'm dying and I get tested positive and I died, then it's a COVID death. And it goes up on the scoreboard on CNN and through the media, and then gets announced as part of the daily briefings about how many deaths we're having. And based on the sensitivity of those tests, you can, it's how, like, how much you can actually, like, it's, if this is true about how sensitive these tests can be, you can, kind of tweak the sensitivity of it to show more people are positive or less people are positive. So then a huge amount of power goes into the tests, to the test manufacturers, to the efficacy and ethical nature of the way that the tests are being done, to the oversight mechanisms that are going into it, to the proof of it, to the fact that, is there only one test? If you're doing your little swab and you test once, is it only one test, or are they doing 10 tests to catch, to find, hopefully a positive, so that the numbers look bad?
Yeah, dude, that's what I'm saying. It's a lot for people to think about. And I would really like for people to, like, take what we're saying into consideration and really think for yourself. Just because we're having this conversation, Kyle, I don't want anybody to think that neither one of us are correct. I want people to fact check things. I want people to not trust, but to verify. That is a big thing in the cryptocurrency space. Do not trust, verify. And I definitely encourage people to do that, man. And, before we wrap things up, I do want to say to people that, and me and you talked about this, I am going to be pushing my Patreon channel more, and I'm going to be having conversations with people like yourselves and groups of people about some of these things that we were talking about and other subjects that I don't have to worry about saying things like 4-H and all these really asinine terms just to not have my channel get flagged and, lose my opportunity to be able to use this platform to push people to other platforms and to try to wake people up, man. So I encourage people to check out my Patreon, because I'm going to have a lot of conversations that go really hard and really deep. And it's really time that people start thinking about these things. And I would really encourage people to, do your own research, look into these things. And if you have any information or you want to share something, feel free to comment in these videos. Kyle is, like, super available on social media. I'm sure he wouldn't have a problem with you hitting him up. He loves people. So, I mean, we're trying to get connected. We're trying to wake people up. Was there anything, actually, since there was something else I wanted to ask you about, the bill of human digital rights that you were talking about. I think that's a really important subject, and I think that's something that we should put some focus into in the future. And I really like the idea that you brought it up. Do you want to elaborate a little bit more on what you think something like a bill of human digital rights would entail?
Yeah, I mean, this is something that I think a lot of us are kind of looking for, and I feel like, there must be something. So if anybody knows of any, like, initiatives like this going on, like, let's join forces and get behind to support this. This comes down to our basic rights to ourselves, to to our data, to our identity, to our ability to be able to to travel, to move in society without having to provide all sorts of proofs. One of the challenges, and this is a discussion that I was having the other day, was that some of the frictions that we have in society, like, aren't necessarily a bad thing. And when we remove all friction, like, as technologists, we look at the friction and we see it's a problem. And we want to move towards, like, a seamless experience. And this is something that I've said, and now I'm reflecting on this as well. Because, if you think about how many times you show your ID in a given year, to prove your age, you might think it's a lot. Maybe it's like, 10, 20, even 100 times. But imagine in the with full digital identity, we'll have the ability to be able to, like, not do our general person-to-person trust dance, and you'll actually, like, just instantly want to verify all sorts of information from other people. It could be, their political orientation, or it could be, their ethnicity, or it could be against their common interests. Like, should I even talk to this person? I haven't actually talked to them yet. Should I talk to them? Like, let's let my digital agent talk to their digital agent to see if there might be a fit here for, us. Is it worth our time? Which kind of abstracts a lot of like the humanity and like, general, like, I don't know. Like,
No, I get what you're saying.
yeah. And this is what we're moving to when we have full digital identity. It can be, yes, okay, no problem. I'm being requested certain things like, like my age, like to enter the bar. Now the bar scenario is a great one. Like, when you give a bouncer your identity, you're giving him a lot more information than he needs. This is something that digital identity can really help solve.
To give a really good example, and I've heard this a lot of times, and I do like the idea of this, and that's why I like Civic. Shout out to Vinny Lingham and what he's doing with Civic. But imagine you're a female that works at a convenience store or a grocery store or something like that, and you're dealing with a customer who happens to have a crush on you. And let's say this person happens to have mental problems, and you as a female don't like this guy, and he keeps inviting himself towards you. And because you reject him so many times, he gets upset. He now can follow you home, find out where you live. He could take down your information. There's a lot of different things that come into play, but with the digital ID that we would have control of, we would be able to choose what information that we provide to other people. So if I want to buy something that requires me to be of 21 years of age, they don't need to know my name. They don't need to know where I live. They don't need to know anything about me except for that my birthday is before that date. And that's powerful. But on the flip side, if we're going to be required to have vaccinations and things like that for these IDs to be functionable, these forced vaccinations, let's say that I have a digital ID, and because I don't get a vaccination, now my ID has been made invalid.
Yeah, and like on the top, I mean, I absolutely, you must have
everything's got a double-edged sword to it.
You must have to do that. But I mean, I will say, like, from the people, like from everyone that I'm talking to, nobody wants to get a vaccine. Like, nobody has any intention. A lot of people, like within my circles at least, have no interest in a vaccine. Other people do, but many people do not. So there's
Right.
there's gonna be a large portion of the population that's like, no, like, we're not doing this. And also, if you want to be doing this, we need some really true transparency,
hard data
and accountability on like what's in those things. Like, what is in those things? Because if you're saying everybody needs to have this, and there's a lot of people, like, you can't there's no one drug that you can give to everybody that works for everybody. It just isn't like that.
No, our bodies are different.
People have adverse reactions. Our bodies are very different. So like, this notion just doesn't work. Whether it's, and there's also the chance it's a total placebo vaccine. It's like, but there's something else in it. And that's what, if you watch London Real and David Icke, they talk all about, where it can be going. And it's worth exploring and exposing yourself to this information, to these counter thoughts, because, you got to sometimes polarize to stabilize. And, if you're just feeding off that one, and I've seen this too, is when you're really not, when you see like conspiracy and hide away from it, but then go and are sucking in the narrative, which is being blasted like at unbelievable levels. If you check out Society Library, like, they're doing some analysis about the level of reporting, and it's like in the last 2 months, there's been like 40 times more reporting on COVID than on the entire world we've ever seen before on any crisis. And it's just insane how much programming is going on around this, coming from the television, from all the different channels. All the channels are programming around this. All the mainstream channels on television are programming.
That's why they call them programs, dude.
That's why they call them programs.
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna have some talks, man. We're gonna have some talks, and dude, I really honestly appreciate you taking the time to come back on and have this talk, because I really think it's important stuff. I guess before we do wrap up this talk, was there anything that you wanted to talk about that we didn't?
Well, I mean, you showed the card, and we could talk about these cards themselves, but
Yeah.
and we don't even need to talk about SwissKey. Anybody who's interested,
Well,
check out swisskey.io. You can order some cards right now. Comment and maybe win one of them by you can support SwissKey and support me and our vision by either donating to SwissKey or by purchasing some cards. Or if you're interested in investing too, if you're in a position to be deploying capital for the light, please go to swisskey.io, check out the investor video that's there. As well, if you just believe in me and support me, and just like if you believe in Chris and support him, support us on Patreon. I'm on Patreon, Kyle, or Patreon /KJJK.
I'll include links.
It's there. And and whoever has come this far in watching this, thank you for your attention, and being here, because I know time is our truly one scarce resource.
Dude, I appreciate you, and I'm very fortunate, man, to have some really awesome subscribers and people who follow me on social media. I have some really open-minded people that I think are very good alarm clocks as well. So I think this information is going to fall on a lot of really good ears, not deaf ears. And I think a lot of people are going to find a lot of value in what we're talking about. So I'm going to have links down below. I'm going to have a link for that first interview so everybody can check out SwissKey in more detail. And we'll do some more coverage with SwissKey, Kyle.
Yeah, of course. And let's get some more discussions going on.
Yeah, no, we definitely will. We definitely will. I'd like to get groups of people.
We need to considering the volume that's coming from the mainstream side. We need more volume on the hidden truth side.
Facts. Total facts, dude. Total facts.
Full facts.
All right. Well, to wrap it up, ladies and gentlemen, it's your first time ever checking out any of my content. Obviously, this is a pretty heavy video. I do encourage you to explore my channel. I talk about all kinds of different stuff. I have interviews, reviews, educational stuff, and my practice change videos. And if you like what I do, you can support me by liking, subscribing, commenting, and sharing. And as always, I encourage you to be the change by practicing change. And we need you to be the change right now more than ever. Love you all.
Love you. Love you, Chris.
Love you, dude.
This is an urgent message to all humans everywhere. Based on my experience, connections, and the information that I'm reviewing, I need to issue an urgent call for action. The stakes have never been higher. The global atmosphere of fear is making people vulnerable to manipulation. History has shown us that in times of crisis, we see our human rights stripped from us in the name of our protection. I'm seeing sensible, intelligent people, my friends, my family, our elected representatives, willing to sacrifice their basic human rights in response to this COVID crisis. Now is not the time to sit and wait on the sidelines as our way of life gets steamrolled. It's more important than ever that we fight for the life that we want for ourselves, for our children, for our grandchildren. At the end of the day, we need to think critically about our situation and act with honor and integrity. We need to think about the long-term results of our actions today and how we can best respond to this global crisis. The way I see it, we are at a tipping point. All this technology before us can allow us to usher in a digital golden age that allows for humanity to rise together and empower people to have control in their physical and digital lives. Or it can be turned against us in a top-down dystopic system of total control. A society where our every move is tracked, where our ability to travel is a privilege and not a right, where our data is used and sold without our knowledge and then weaponized. Weaponized against us to influence our behavior, our beliefs, and our purchasing decisions. If we give away control of our money, identity, and data as a reaction to COVID-19, I'm concerned that we will never get them back.
My mission is to see that people understand the immense value of personal privacy and to empower people with technology that unlocks this value. As humans, we all have the right to personal privacy. Take, for example, the contents of our physical wallets. We control our wallets. We protect it. It's under our physical control. The cash we have in our wallets, we control. The cards we have in our wallet, we control. The receipts we have in our wallet, we control. When it comes to our digital life and our personal data, we have no control. Mega corporations like Facebook, Google, Apple, and Amazon hold, sell, and profit from our personal data. Our money is held in banks, which means it's the bank's money, and we hold a promise. Our stocks, our investments in other companies' success are stored on centralized ledgers by third parties. Our medical data is stored with our doctors and our governments in disconnected, centralized databases and filing cabinets. Our ID cards, passports, voting rights, real estate titles, car registration, and more are mostly physical documents that reference centralized databases. Centralized databases that can be manipulated, hacked, and exploited. We have been on a trajectory of digitizing our currency, identity information, and data for a long time. Adoption has been increasing rapidly, but with the arrival of this black swan that is COVID-19, we can expect global adoption of digital identity and digital currencies in the coming 2 years. Billions of people will begin storing digital keys for their money, identity, and data. Where will it be stored? Who will have access to it? How will you access and interface with these keys? These are the important questions we're asking right now and developing solutions for. To usher in this golden age, we need universal access to a secure, open-sourced, self-custody wallet where we each hold and control our keys. Within these wallets, we can store and access all types of digital currency, identity, and data. By doing this, we unlock this golden age that enables us seamless experiences in our digital lives and privacy in our personal lives. Having been in the Bitcoin and blockchain industry since 2013, I want to assure you that we have all the technology ready to go to make this happen, either way. I have faith in the ecosystem, its ethos, its principles, its values. But in responding to this crisis, the industry may be deceived into bringing to market solutions that further the agenda of the few at the expense of the many. In addition to having a secure digital wallet, we need to join forces in supporting and demanding a bill of universal human digital rights, a binding agreement on behalf of governments, corporations, industry, media, intelligence, academia, and more to uphold and protect every man, woman, and child's right to digital identity, data, and currency. At Swiss Key, we are building out a super wallet, a solution that puts you in full control. Most of the pieces are in place, and we are doing our best with all resources in hand to move as quickly as possible. We need your help. If you want to be involved, subscribe to our newsletter, follow us on social channels, and reach out. If you can't help with your time, you can help with your money. You can invest in the project, you can buy NFC wallets, or you can make an anonymous donation with crypto. If nothing else, please share this message. Think critically about your actions, and always do your best. With unconditional love and gratitude, I'm Kyle Kemper. Thank you for your attention, and bless you.